Now, with some startling and troubling numbers when it comes to our military vets. According to the VA, more than 17 veterans die by suicide each day on average.
And now they are leading the charge on cutting-edge research for the potential treatment of PTSD with the help of a surprising drug.
War is pretty grisly. And the stuff we've seen is stuff that nobody should really have to see, and gives us memories no one should have to have.
Bob Parsons, billionaire entrepreneur and founder of GoDaddy, has donated over $141 million aimed at impacting PTSD. For him, that philanthropy is personal. He served in the Marines during the Vietnam War.
When I came back from the war, I was a different guy than the guy that went over there. I just couldn't go on the way I was. I mean, if you push it down and push it down, but then sometimes you get to the point where you can't push it down, and when it comes up, you can't stop it.
After decades of struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder, he finally found relief.
At the time, I was 67, and it had been 49 years since the war for me, and I finally came home.
He recently wrote a memoir, Fire in the Hole, about how he healed and why he's decided to donate millions to research on MDMA.
Veterans are organizing themselves to have psychedelic therapy out of the country, and they're working hard to get this, with or without the medical community's backing. I think we want to join them.
Dr. Rachel Yehuda has been studying trauma for decades. Now she's spearheading clinical research on MDMA-assisted therapy for the treatment of PTSD.
It's about removing kind of the barriers that you naturally have to kind of bring down those walls so that you can look at what happened to you, so that you can make meaning out of it.
This summer, the FDA voted not to approve a pharmaceutical version of the drug for wider use, asking for further research on its safety and efficacy. MDMA remains illegal in the United States, and experts warn that recreational use is dangerous. MDMA has potentially significant health risks for some people.
Do you think MDMA does help people with PTSD?
I don't think MDMA works. I think MDMA-assisted therapy works. So I think that it enables a process that many people find hard to do without the MDMA. I've seen many people get over PTSD without psychedelics. But for those that haven't been able to do those things, I think this is something that is a really important development.
One of those people is Iraq War veteran Marie Vetter.
We deployed to Iraq in 2003.
When you came back from your deployment, what was it like?
I knew it wasn't normal to have horrifying cold sweat nightmares, about killing people and being killed. I knew it wasn't normal to be shaking and crying for 5 minutes after a car backfires, but I knew it was normal for people who had deployed. I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, and I feel like I missed their childhoods.
Marie embarked on years of therapy, eventually landing in an MDMA trial at the VA.
I lived in a mental space where I couldn't feel. All of those feelings that people describe as going with an ecstasy trip, those feelings of love and acceptance and affection, all of that gets turned inward. MDMA flooded my brain with the appropriate neurotransmitters to be able to climb up out off of that path and start on a different path. It just immediately, I felt like, God, everybody needs to know about this. I want everybody to know.
For Marie and Bob, sharing their stories is a continuation of their military service, fulfilling the promise of the soldier's creed, I will never leave a fallen comrade.
We continue to want to serve, and that starts with serving one another. If you had lost your leg and you were able to get a prosthetic and your buddy wasn't, you wouldn't be okay with that.
We listen to each other. And for veterans, it's been a long time coming. I mean, We finally don't have to carry these crosses anymore.
And with the help of a big donation from Bob and his wife, Renee, Mount Sinai is opening the Parsons Research Center for Psychedelic Healing. That will be led by Dr. Yehuda. Their ribbon cutting ceremony is tonight.
That is so important, and what an important story as well. Let's bring in Dr. Darian now. So tell us about the risks that people should be aware of when it comes to this drug.
Yeah, so MDMA, it stands for methylene dioxymethamphetamine. This is a drug that commonly in the street is known as ecstasy. Just for education, what we do know in clinical research is that there can be, in a controlled environment with a known dosing, known titration, there can be some significant benefits. But it disputes, or it's very different from what we're talking about with street ecstasy, obviously. That can be associated with abnormal changes in blood pressure, and even in certain cases, when it's not understood, can lead to a diagnosis of psychosis, reveal an underlying diagnosis of schizophrenia. So it's something that we have to take a lot of care with, and reasons why the FDA is pushing for more education, more research to understand how we can get that benefit without those risks.
Yeah, and it's really important in this discussion that we talk about. This is still in clinical trials. This has not been approved.
Yeah.
Nobody is saying go out there and get recreational drugs, because there's a lot that we still need to know about this.
Of course, you don't know what you're getting when you use substances from the street, for example. There's no way of guaranteeing that that's the same thing. And I think also when we look at the history of this use, there's a lot of stigma associated with it, which unfortunately holds it back from trying to find those benefits. But I do believe that with more research, with more testing, with more controlled environments, there's a lot of opportunity there to help those in need.
And that gives a lot of people hope.
And it
just
should.
right there. Yeah,
absolutely.
Doc, thank you.
And if you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide, there is a hotline that you can call anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call or text the National Lifeline at 988. Even if you feel like it, you are not alone.